Our fact for this episode is transitioning to electric or hybrid vehicle options is a sound financial move for your business, and actually maybe not as complicated as you might think. So let's get into why. Welcome back to the Corporate Sustainability Education channel, powered by the Southern Sustainability Partnership. In this episode, we look at why organisations in both the public and private sector are increasingly transitioning to these vehicle solutions, and we dispel or aim to dispel many of the myths that surround them. To do so, we're delighted to be joined this morning by Paul Thorley, owner of Hampshire UK-based company Vehicle Consulting. Paul has more years experience in working in the vehicle industry and in vehicle leasing than he cares to remember. And he's worked across many of the leading brands available on the market today during this time. Now, Paul is particularly keen to accelerate the uptake of electric and hybrid vehicles for businesses and for individuals. But for businesses, he's seen for himself the many, many benefits. And so, as I said, he will help us to dispel the myths that surround them as well. Welcome, Paul. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Paul, for many businesses, looking at electric and hybrid vehicle solutions is going to be something new to them. But actually, how many years have these vehicles actually been around?
It is actually a new thing for lots of companies to consider, and it's not just companies but individuals. It's a big change in mindset. But electric vehicles were first created in the 18th century, 19th century, in the very late 1800s, early 1900s, and they were quite popular at that time for the volume of vehicles that were around, and that was up until the early 1920s, 30s, and when the fuel vehicles, the other fuel vehicles started to come along. And ever since then, really, they've seen a slow decline. Most people nowadays recognise that Toyota Prius was the first sort of mass-produced alternative fuel vehicle that first came out. I think it was 1997, and which was a big hit at the time because there was nothing on the market, and obviously people were curious at that. And that was a hybrid, so it was a petrol hybrid vehicle. That Toyota Prius is still around today in a different format. Obviously it's much more modern than it was now. And to see that vehicle in 1997 and to what's available now, it's just evolved massively. So I think that's possibly, and certainly for my journey in the motor industry, when I started in 1995, the Prius coming along 97 changed lots of perceptions and lots of boundaries, I suppose, and it was always the key. So one manufacturer had to start it at some point, and it was the Toyota Prius. So I would say I would imagine for me and many others, that's when the journey first started to enter into people's heads.
Because I remember having a conversation with the person that looked after electric vehicles in our local BMW. And he said that the German company were looking at this sort of 40 years ago, so yes, like you say, it's, this technologies have been around, took them longer to bring it to market than Toyota. But okay, so maybe it would be a good idea, Paul, at this point to explain briefly really what the difference is between electric and hybrid vehicles.
Right, well, the first thing that we need to make clear is, and this is actually a bit of a secret, well it's not, but there is actually no such thing as an electric vehicle because they're actually battery operated. So what people class as an electric vehicle is what's called a BEV, so it's a battery electric vehicle. So that's a pure electric vehicle, pure plug-in vehicle. So the only source of power that vehicle can ever get is by plugging it into an electric point. A hybrid vehicle, again, it splits into two different ones. You've got the, for example, Toyota claiming to be a self-charging hybrid, which basically is a fuel engine which powers a secondary battery in the vehicle, and that charges that up. And then you've got a plug-in hybrid. So a plug-in hybrid is either a petrol or a diesel car, as normal. Again, a secondary battery on there, but this time you plug that in, and that will give a short range of up to about 40 miles, which suits a lot of people who are worried about the electric source of charging, and it's like a stepping stone from a petrol or diesel vehicle into into a full electric vehicle.
One of the myths that I've come across a lot since I've worked in corporate sustainability is that there isn't as much choice when you're looking at these types of vehicles. So would you say that today most of the brands that we're familiar with have their own solution?
Yeah, I was just looking at some data there. I think there's 210 pure electric models you can actually buy or lease now on the UK roads, cars and vans. So that's huge. And that's literally more or less every manufacturer now has come to the offering of a full electric car. And certainly in the next 12 months, that will become to all the manufacturers. Development on these vehicles is astounding. The money that the manufacturers and the governments where they're based are putting into this development and technology and research and bringing out these amazing vehicles is phenomenal. And it's so exciting to be at the start of this whole change cycle, I suppose. Because obviously in 8-9 years' time, that's the only vehicles that will be produced, certainly for the UK market and possibly for the world market. So everything's got to change. So a year ago, there was obviously not as many opportunities, so there's not as much choice. And again, going back to 1997 with the Toyota Prius, there was one, and that was their vehicle. So from there to where we are today is a huge leap, and people need to understand what choices are out there, what different options are out there, and it's not simply the fact. So because, for example, because Ford don't make a full electric vehicle yet, that doesn't mean to say that there isn't one available to you, because Seat do, Renault do, Citroën do, etc. So there's plenty of alternatives, and it's just, I don't know, it's just a case of educating yourselves or having people help people with the change and just advise, really. It's just like when the internet first came about, I suppose. People were really scared about the internet. They were scared, oh, this will never take off, etc. And look at it now. We're talking on the internet now, and that's what powers most of our lives. So yeah, it's exciting. There is plenty of choice out there.
Well, that's good to know, and I think that you're right what you say about human beings. How no matter how advanced we get, we still have these mindsets of something's new, and is that to be feared in some ways, really. Paul, in your business, you're always going to have that conversation with your customer about the electric and hybrid vehicles. But talking from my personal experience, and I don't know if you'd agree with this, but if a lot of people go into a traditional vehicle showroom and they say, I want to look at such and such a vehicle, what percentage of the time do you really think that they're going to say, actually, before you go, would you just like to look at our environmental, eco-friendly solutions? It's never happened to me.
It's never happened to me either, and I did last year go into showrooms, and for the last few years to sit in cars myself and look in them and test drive them for research, just for clarity. And this is no detriment to anybody involved in this chain, but when you go into a car showroom, the people there are paid to sell your car. That's what they're paid to do. And they're paid to sell you the car that they want to sell you, or that's what they're told to sell, because that's their business. They have targets, they have money to raise to pay for these amazing buildings and the staff and the overhead there. So the chances are, and this has happened to me, I went into a Volkswagen showroom and to look at the electric Golf, and the car was locked, and they didn't want me to sit in it, and they wanted to try and take me out in a Golf GTD diesel model outside on a test drive, which but you know what, that's just how it is. Until that's another question, that's another conversation, but until that culture of sales and commission is taken out of that sort of environment, and you can go in somewhere. I remember, do you remember Daewoo, when they first came as a manufacturer? They had a showroom facility where the salesmen weren't paid on commission, and you could go in there, and most of them were in like outdoor shopping centres, and you could go in and look around. Obviously, we know what happened to that because they're not there anymore. the chances are, you go into, let's use Volkswagen as an example. Out of all their product range of vehicles, they've only got 2 offerings for an electric vehicle currently. That's changing massively, but the chances are there's a wait for that car. The chances are that there's not as much profit in that car, and the chances are the salesman wouldn't be particularly targeted or have much passion in selling you that. So going back to your first question about change and about the second question about third question about choice, and people's perception of that goes from the top to the bottom. So people have to buy into this. Manufacturers buy into it, then the dealer network buy into it, and then the staff in that dealer network buy into it. So you're right in what you're saying, which is why people like myself and others around the country, who are passionate about this and knowledgeable and factual and have all the tools at our disposal in the days now, in the months and years ahead of us, where with Zoom and electric and no face-to-face meetings, that can be really good for the consumer, whether it's a personal customer or a business, because you don't have to now leave your comfy chair or warm office and go into that environment. You can actually find your information you want at a fingertip. And then you can, if you want to talk to somebody like me, you can request a meeting with me like this, and do that, and ask those questions that you may not want to ask in front of somebody. And as this becomes a new normal way of communication, that's going to get better, and the information to the customer can get better.
Yeah.
So yes, you're absolutely right. And if you spoke to 50 people and just been to a showroom recently, that question won't have been answered.
No, and I think that in my experience, or our experience in the industry, is that the very best people to sell an electric vehicle is the people that now own an electric vehicle or hybrid vehicle, because they absolutely wax lyrical about them. And we have run a motor show ourselves, actually, and we did invite vehicle owners along, because if you want to know anything about how great they are, then that they were amazing, and they love their vehicles once they've got them, Paul. So you're doing a great job selling it to them. It always interests me, and we have to cover it. People say about this new term that's entered our dictionary, range anxiety. But it always makes me wonder, well, don't we always have range anxiety? Because at some point we have to stop and do something to fill our vehicles with something, whatever that might be. So I never quite really understand that, especially as most people have reasonably small trips. And these vehicles actually now, as the technology moves on, it's quite impressive how far you can go with them.
Yeah, range anxiety is a thing, even to me. For different journeys, as you know, I live on the Isle of Wight, which is 26 miles wide and 13 miles deep. So our road network is different to lots of the parts of the mainland, and there's only so far I can go without getting wet. So that helps me here, and it certainly suits me. My car has a 263-mile range. So based on what I've just said to you there, my car lasts for a long time. So I charge my car once every 3 weeks, once every 2 weeks, or something like that. It's really simple. Going back to all these things, it's all about newness to people and perception. There'll always be in any human, it's their nature to find a doubt in why they should change or why they should do something. And that could be anything, even from randomly changing, what brand of tea bags you have. It could be anything at all. So but that's just human nature. So this range anxiety thing, it comes about really, and it's a question I ask. A lot of people say, well, until I get a car that's going to do 500 miles on one charge, I won't have one. But realistically, can you drive 500 miles without a brake? Is that legal? I don't think it is. Is that safe for you to drive all that way and concentrate? Probably not. And so, you do have a brake. And again, people are used to going to a fuel station, putting fuel in, paying and going. It's just, they've done that for, I've done that since I was 17. So, and everyone has. There's no hiding behind that. So people don't know. So it's one of the doubts that they put in the minds of, oh, this is one reason why I can't have an electric car, because of range anxiety. Well, there's not many new models coming out now with a range of under 150 miles. I don't know of many, if any, of the new stuff that's coming out. I think Mercedes or Smart do the little two-seater ones, which I think it's got an 80-mile range. But that's old technology as well, and all the new technology is coming out really good. We supplied a vehicle last week to a customer, and their car had a 350-mile range, which is a family car, is absolutely brilliant. You know, it's just there. It gives them their confidence that they can go somewhere safely, securely, just as they would in any other fuel type vehicle, really. People use it as an obstacle, and they use it as a prejudged obstacle. And I think it's called a confirmation bias, where they already assume that that's going to happen to them, and then they need to work out how they can stop it happening, rather than the other way around. So I took a car to Heathrow just before Christmas to take my mother to the airport, and that was, I don't know how far Heathrow is from here, but my car comfortably went there and back on less than one charge. I had never thought of, leaving the Isle of Wight and my little bubble here, my little, 26 miles of radius or whatever it is, to go up there was a bit, will I be okay? So I made sure my vehicle was charged the night before. It's just preparing for your journey. Again, most of the vehicles have the technology in them where you press a button, it will tell you how far you can go and where your charging points are on that journey. There's also apps, ZapMap, for example, you can get for your mobile phone or Google, where it will also tell you not only where the charging points are, also if there's anybody in them. That's another prejudged question. Oh, what if I get there and someone's charging? Well, if someone's charging, there'll be half an hour. I've never been anywhere where I couldn't charge on these public charging points, particularly on the motorway network. It's very good. Electricity seem to have the marketplace on there. They're brilliant. You turn up, you scan it with your mobile phone, you plug your car in, you go and have a coffee, you come back out, your car's charged. It's 40 minutes. That's just it's brilliant. And you should have a break. If you're driving 2-3 hours, you should have a break, really. I say lorry drivers do, and I'm not quite sure what the legal limit is on that, but I'm sure someone watching this will probably know, or it's easy to find out. But long answer to a quick question.
Well, for us as a company, any excuse to stop for a coffee, and we're quite happy about that. I've got to ask you, most of us will have a reasonable idea how much it would cost us to do the journey that you've just talked about to Heathrow and back. So go on, tell us roughly what you think it cost you in your vehicle. Just roughly, not to the penny, maybe.
Okay, but roughly about £3.50.
Oh yeah, I knew it would upset me.
So that's based on a £5 full charge, roughly. Yeah, because I charge mine at home, which is great, by the way, because it's like having your own personal fuel station. So you haven't got to queue up, you haven't got to get out of your car, you haven't got to, and the world of no one touches anything as well. You haven't got to touch the petrol pump that someone else has touched, and there's all sorts of benefits to that. But the best thing is you just plug it in on your drive. I've got a drive, so not everybody has, but yeah, about £3.50. If I was using the electric public network, I think it'd be a bit more than that, because they do charge for that convenience. So probably about £6 on a motorway rapid charge network. But again, it's great value and good motoring cost wise to do that. And if you did that journey every day, which some people do a 100-mile commute a day. Some people, I used to, but going back to range anxiety, how many people do a 200-mile commute? Not many, if any. And maybe that right now that car's not suitable for them. Which is okay. It's not; these aren't suitable for everybody and everybody's needs. You can make it suitable, because again, if you're driving 200 miles to work or on a trip, you'd have a break. 200 miles realistically is about 3.5 hours. So most people would either need a break for one reason or another, whether it's just to go to the little boys or ladies' room, or to go to a coffee shop. It's just who we are as humans. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, about that.
Okay, so while we're on the pound, shillings, and pence, let's get into talking the language of those who sign off the expenditure for the fleet. And by looking at the numbers in terms of a journey for traditional versus electric, I know that's how long is a bit of string, but are there any sort of stats around averages, comparisons?
Well, it's just the cost per mile, I suppose, of the vehicle itself. But it's not just that. People look at everyone throws this at me. Electric vehicles are too expensive. It's straight away. It's everyone always says that. They list the screen prices on a comparison. Yes, when you put them side by side, if you put a Renault Zoe next to a Renault Clio, there's £10,000 difference in that Zoe to that Clio. There's lots of reasons for that. But when you look at the true life cost of a vehicle, there's so many comparisons where, particularly for a business user, that electric vehicle is pound for pound much better value for money than the petrol or a diesel vehicle. And that's every single time. There's not been one instance where we've done a comparison or a true life cost or a fleet review, which we love doing, to show people. We saved one company. They had 3 vehicles over a 3-year lease, and the switch saved them £22,000 just on, and that's the bottom line profit just by switching from their petrol cars, which was what they had petrol Golfs, into electric Golfs. And again, completely defuncting the electric vehicles are too expensive myth. If people are going to go out and buy a car, as an outright car, then that benefit doesn't quite currently work as possibly as well as a leasing thing. But there's not many businesses or people now that actually think, I've got £30,000 and I'm going to go and buy something that's going to lose money. That just doesn't happen. And I don't know what the stats are for that, but I certainly don't come across it. I mean, I can sell for example, a Renault Zoe. We have a fleet policy with Renault UK, and I get a preferential rate on that car, and I can sell that vehicle for a cash price, probably as cheap or cheaper than you can find anywhere. But I don't do that. I've never sold one. I've never been asked to sell one because people don't want to do it that way. They're looking at a true life cost of a vehicle, and the fleet managers out there and the people who's looking after that, as they're adapting to this. Actually, this is real. And looking at a true life cost, because maintenance and servicing is a lot cheaper as well. So it's the whole running cost of the whole thing. It's not just, I'm buying the car for £30,000 and that was £20,000. Then, I do know of a local organisation to me that does it that way, which is, another story. But so on that point there, and if you're taking this as a company car, the biggest advantage, there's 2. One for the company is that you're going to give your employee a state-of-the-art, high-tech, amazing specification, brand new technology vehicle. It's environmentally friendly. It's going to save you as a business your Class 1 national insurance, so you don't have to pay that on an electric car at the moment. But you're basically giving your employee a pay rise without it costing you any money, because they aren't going to pay any company car tax for the next year. Then I think it's 1%, then 2%. If you base that on, for example, a Volkswagen Golf petrol at 16, 17% of your basic salary as a benefit in kind, again, the savings for your driver of your vehicle, if that's the policy that people have, are immense. And me as a director of my own business, for me to have my electric car, I don't pay any company car tax. Which my last car was crazy company car tax. I think it's £450 a month just in tax. So automatically, by switching, I'm saving £5,000 personally on my tax, but the company's saving the Class 1 national insurance on that as well, and great PR and corporate social responsibility, and it feels good. It feels good to do something good. So there's all the numbers.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, when you're looking at numbers and how much the vehicles might cost a bit more now, but it's like anything, when the first flat screen televisions come out, when anything first comes out, they're always the more expensive. Although electric vehicles have been around for a while now, the more people adopt them, the cheaper they're going to become. I hate that word cheap, because I
Absolutely.
mean that, you have to pay what they're worth, the value of them. But yeah, certainly. And the infrastructure, as you've said, a lot of people do worry, oh, the infrastructure isn't good enough now. Well, the infrastructure will increase the more people have them. But in the main, I would say the infrastructure for what's out there at the moment is pretty good. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The infrastructure is getting better and better. I've not been on the mainland for a while because of COVID and all sorts of things. So December was my first trip to the mainland, and I stopped. I didn't need to charge, but I could see they were putting in the service station, I think it was the M3, significant numbers of more charging points in. It's not perfect, but I think they were putting 12 in, which is brilliant. There was 6 already there with nobody in them. So this rollout will happen. It's generating jobs for people, it's generating income, and it's giving some people to look at and get involved with it and get passionate about. But yeah, so again, prejudged. When was the last time you drove into a motorway service station and looked for the electric charging point and used it? You probably haven't. As soon as you get your electric car, think about when you do, you look at different things. Where I live on the Isle of Wight, the charging network isn't brilliant. The public charging network isn't brilliant at all, but that's getting better. And as more businesses putting charging points into their own business, because there's grants available to do that, that's growing. Off-street parking is a problem on the Isle of Wight, as it is in many rural towns, inner city towns and inner city places. It's a problem. So that's an obstacle only overcome by a better public charging facility, but also a better mileage range on the vehicles. Because again, the average miles per year nationally is about 9,000 of all the studies that the AA did, where I think the average journey per year is 9,000 miles. Well, if you break that into a week, it's not 200 miles a week. So is it a massive problem to go and charge your car once a week if you didn't have a charging point? But if you can charge it in 45, 50 minutes, and it's going to cost you £5 or £6 to do that, possibly not. Not everyone can do that, but even here we can do that on the Isle of Wight. We've got 6 charging points public for the whole island. So, that's going to get better, as you say. As rollout comes, that will be rolled out. I know there's a big company on the Isle of Wight, for example, that's going to put 6 rapid public charging points in to charge people to use. So there's all sorts of opportunities once people see it.
Yeah, I was pleased to walk past a company quite recently, their car park out the front, and I saw 2 vehicles charging whilst they were busy in their offices, and I thought, yeah, it's a good feeling to see that, really. I feel that we should at least touch upon the actual charging process and how that's developing. So, I've looked, there's several different options on the marketplace. If you're out and about and you spot one, you can see that there might be more than one place to plug in. I don't know anything about it, I have to say, but the actual plugging in sort of situation itself, how is that developing?
Slowly. One of the problems that we find currently is this: there's a lot of providers of the public charging points. So I don't know how many there is. I think there's 7 or 8. And what really needs to happen is, because to use their charging points, you have to have their app, you have to create an account, you have to upload a card to pay with. Really, it needs to be a universal thing where, going back to when my dad was a fleet manager and he was driving around all over the country, he had a fuel card and he could use it at any fuel station to use his fuel card. And I think I have heard this is coming out anyway, but I think that's the next part of the development where, again, going back to the app, do I need 6 apps on my phone? No. Can we make it so there's a unique one app and it all works the same? Yeah, that would be good now. But again, it's sort of being rushed and patched to get this network out there. And as it levels off and gets standardized, I think that will come. And that's really it. There are different plugs you can plug in, because you can get a standard charge and a rapid charge into your vehicle, and the ends of the plugs just look different. That's all. It's just a different. There's an AC and a DC adapter, and that's just what the manufacturer puts on the vehicle. And you get all that information with your car anyway, and everything you need.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Paul. So can we also now talk about the battery in terms of the lifespan of the actual battery itself? And I guess that's going to be different in different vehicles, really.
Yeah, there's not masses of data about that at the moment in time. I mean, all the manufacturers are given a minimum 5-year guarantee on the battery. I think a lot of them give a 10-year guarantee on that battery. So it is covered, and the schemes that we do and people we talk to, they don't keep cars 5 years anyway. So really, would that affect them? Possibly not. It might affect some people who want to go and buy one outright. Again, I've not come across that person in the last 3 or 4 years of dealing with electric vehicles. So the fact that they're putting these warranties on, which are getting better, would really help. But on that, data isn't particularly fluent, and how accurate that is, I don't know, because let's face it, it's so new. The battery technology is so new. It's all changing, month by month. I think Tesla are really pushing that on the 1,000,000-mile battery. So again, as development money goes into that, as people learn from it and take the good and the bad out of each situation, that's going to get better and better. So in a year's time, we'll not be talking about a 200-mile range car. We'll be talking about a 300-mile and a 400-mile and maybe the 500-mile range of vehicles. So I know it's not quite a full answer, but that's all I can honestly give you right now. The fact that there's a warranty on it helps. I always imagine, like anything that's recharged, like your mobile phone battery, there is an element as you keep charging it, may lose some of that thing. And there is some data on the internet about that. But again, is it real? Is it accurate? And can I use it as a quotable source? No. And my own experience, again, which is limited, is I've not had a problem. However, it is very new. I've only been driving electric vehicles for 2 years, or 2.5 years, so it's not come to me yet. I don't know.
The thing is, like with traditional vehicles that we're used to, nothing lasts forever, that you're always going to have to change and do things to vehicles you have. It's just highlighting one particular aspect always looks like you're looking for issues, but every vehicle has to have something changed at some time during its lifetime. So obviously, as a business, we're advocates of renewable energy. I have renewable energy on my home. And so like you've just said, the golden nugget really is to be able to charge your own vehicle would be amazing. And at some stage, I will get to that myself. Another myth, which I find funny, is that people say, oh, they're so slow. And I think that it must be stemming back from the electric milk delivery days when those were very slow for obvious reasons. But I've been in a couple of electric vehicles and wow.
It's instant power. The vehicles are lighter as well because they've got less components in it. And obviously they're not taking 60 litres of fuel with them as well, which really helps with the weight. But it's instant power. I don't know the performance speed of my car because I'm not one to do that. But my car is very, very nippy in every single situation it needs to be. I know the Tesla Model 3, I think that's got a 0 to 60 of 4 seconds. And you can get an option on it which makes it 2, it's actually called ludicrous. The option's called ludicrous, which is actually quite appropriate for Mr. Musk to bring something out like that because it is ludicrous. So yeah, that's a massive myth. And again, it's a prejudged confirmation bias sort of thing, right? Oh no, the electric vehicles are too slow. You can drive them in eco mode, but how fast can you actually drive a car? Certainly where I live, you can't drive it. My average speed is about 21 miles an hour, I think, over a month, and that's if I go on the one dual carriageway that we're allowed on. So yeah, again, how fast can you actually go?
Yeah.
Your speed limit's 30 miles, 40 miles, 50, 60 or 70. So
yeah, exactly. And for me, I think I asked that question purely because I've been in a Tesla and a BMW i8, and oh my goodness, they are
absolutely
incredible pull away, that it's
Unbelievable.
yeah, amazing. But like you say, put it this way, you won't be disappointed. Whatever vehicle you have, it'll keep up with anything that you've driven before. Perhaps when you look at the myths, perhaps one of the strangest things that I've heard someone say was, "Oh, you can't take them through a car wash." Now we're really getting crazy, aren't we? But
Well, again, they're not electric. The cars aren't electric. So, and a normal aspirated vehicle, so a petrol vehicle or a diesel vehicle, they have a battery which powers a lot of the components on the vehicle, and then they are filled with either diesel or petrol. This vehicle, the battery electric vehicle, has a big battery that's being charged by electricity into the battery, and that's it. So yes, you can take them through a car wash. You can't drive them in the sea, but you can take them into the car wash.
oh, well, that's disappointing to hear. I was planning on doing that.
So,
So, Paul, can we talk your language now? Can we talk a bit about how leasing works on these vehicles for those who maybe haven't leased before or have
yeah,
is
so simply on any vehicle, leasing is a real affordable way of breaking that bridge of electric vehicles are too expensive. So you simply select a vehicle and you choose a mileage and a length of contract that you want, let's say 2 years or 3 years, and you're going to do 9,000 miles a year. You pick your vehicle, you pick your mileage, and then we produce for you a vehicle rental, and you simply pay that rental every month. And at the end of that period, you hand it back. And then you get the latest model. It's a little bit like upgrading a mobile phone, I suppose, because not many people go out and spend £1,000 on an Apple iPhone. Most people pay a monthly payment for it. So again, that's available to a business or a personal user, subject to credit checks, and it's a brilliant way of not having ownership of a vehicle. So you've got no depreciation worries. So you haven't got to think, what's this vehicle going away for 3 years' time? Am I buying the right vehicle for that? Because some people used to do that. They used to buy cars they didn't like because their perception was it wouldn't fall as much in value. So a report yesterday by Fleet News was, and with Go Compare, I think you also Compare the Market, one of them, about how much electric vehicles retain their value. I think the electric Golf was the best one, and it lost only something like 27% value in 3 years, which is insane for a new car. And that's because of, again, the technology and what these vehicles are. And as more people become aware of a vehicle, some people are now looking to the second-hand market. There's not many on the second-hand market, so there's a premium for that. So leasing a vehicle. So when you lease a vehicle, predominantly it's through a large blue chip company. I'll use one, for example, who we're representing of, which is a company called Lex Auto Lease. They're owned by Black Horse Bank. So they're the biggest provider of vehicle leasing in the UK. They have a buying power, along with specialists like us who deal with manufacturers, where they can go and speak to a manufacturer to negotiate a brilliant discount on a car. And it could be any car. And that's done by volume and reputation and stuff like that. So the beauty about leasing a vehicle in that way is, let's say it's yourself there who's having that, and the for the Southern Sustainability, they want one car. For you to get that one car, and let's say it's a Renault Zoe, and you go into your Renault garage, they're not going to give you that fleet discount based on your one car every 3 years. As an accumulative in that period, the finance company will probably take something in the region of 10 to 20,000 Renaults in that period of time. So with that, like anything, comes a different price. Now, when you lease a vehicle, so the finance company buy the vehicle, they then look at the residual value. So what they forecast that car to be worth whenever that lease expires. So it could be 2 years, 2 years, 1 month, 3 years, 4 years. And then you find faced with a gap. So they've got a purchase price and then they have a selling price. So you just fund that gap in between. So that's all you have to do. So you haven't got to worry about depreciation. You haven't got to worry about negotiating the best price. And that, again, is a perception thing, because and speaking as a male, it seems to be a male thing where they believe they can buy a car cheaper than the mate. It always has. It happens to me still. It still happens to me. It's crazy. It's just one of those things. It'll never go away. It's almost like a tribal thing, but that's a way of doing that. So to lease a vehicle, you're paying a simple one-off monthly payment for that vehicle. If it's a business, it's just through your accounts. Just like any expense would be. You look at we can put an electric vehicle on the road to a business, a Seat Me, for example, £120 a month plus VAT. So some people pay more than that for a Sky subscription. Some people pay more than that for maintaining their computer system. Some people pay more than that on post, on coffee, you name it, on all sorts of things. So actually, to put this into perspective of that, it's a very small cost. Now, obviously, that rental is a tax deductible off your corporation tax rental as well. So when you net that down as well, because it comes off your bottom line profit, the true cost to the business of leasing a vehicle, it can be so beneficial for what you actually get out of it. It could be that we have people that take these small cars and just brand them up and drive them around as pool cars because it's a great mobile advert, it's a great message. They've gone green, it's an electric vehicle, and people are seeing more and more of this, and it's becoming a thing to almost like a mobile advert to see a new car that's sticking up nicely and driving around, and it gives a good message. So there's all sorts of wonderful benefits into leasing a vehicle. The best thing is going back to the Renault Zoe example. The Renault Zoe is £32,000 to go and buy one, which is a lot of money. So for a business to go and get £32,000 out of their bank account and put it into something that will lose money, when you can actually pay a monthly payment of about £180 to have that vehicle at the same time, that's where the sensible option comes in of not owning the vehicle, not having a depreciating asset, and using that £30,000 to make money rather than cost money. And that's possibly the best way I can explain it, and I hope I have.
Yeah, you have. Absolutely. Thank you. So last question, Paul. I think we've touched on the actual vehicle charging systems. And I can't remember, sorry, if you said there were any grants available to businesses to put them in if they wanted to install them at their facilities.
You ran a business and you gave your employee a company car and they had a drive at home. There's a £350 grant to put one in there. So that's also the same. So at work as well as a business. So if you wanted to put some charging points in at your business, there's £350 there as well. So one question people ask me all the time: how much is a charging point? So I can answer that question. So for a 7 volt for a standard installations, which a standard installation means you have off-road parking near to your house. You don't need to have another fuse box put in your house, and you don't need to dig up a drive or anything like that to put a cable in, because these can fit like I've got here on the side of the house, and it's just plugs into your socket, and you literally plug it into to your household charging point. And for a 7 volt tethered unit, that's £649 after the grant fitted into your thing. You don't have to wait for the grant. The installer pays the grant. So all you would pay is £650 to have that fitted into your house. Now, if you break that down, you've got that. If you're going to get that car for 3 years, then it's just over £200 a year, which is £4 a week. So when you've got that in there for the 3 years, when you think of the convenience that gives you to charge your own car up in your own drive whenever you want to, you've not got to think, I need to go and put some fuel in my car. So it's 8 o'clock at night and it's cold and wet, and you've got to get in your car and go to Asda and put fuel in and drive back. You haven't got to do that. You just plug it in. It's simple. You can plug it in with a 3-pin plug as well. You can get a lead to do that. So you can just put it in an external 3-pin plug. It just takes longer to charge up. That's all it is. There's no different. And you can also get a rapid charger fitted as well, but it's quite a bit more money to do that. And unless you're doing 200 miles a day, the need for that isn't particularly there. We've never sold one. So really, a 7 volt's fine. You can charge your car up, in 8 hours. So you plug it in at night, go to bed, get up, and it's done. Or if you're at night or whatever you need to do, just keep it plugged in. It's just like you plug your mobile phone in. You go to bed, you plug your phone in at night. It's just the same thing, really. It's simple and easy to do. And, when you break it down on a cost basis, it's not massive amounts of money. So it's not scary amounts of money when you break it down.
Okay, well, Paul, thank you so much for being our expert for electric and hybrid vehicles. And that's some valuable insights. I've learned things myself as well, and I thought I knew a bit about this. You'll be pleased to know that we have asked Paul to come back and talk to us a few other times as well. For example, I'd like to run through vans with you.
Yes, definitely,
Companies are less aware of what's available out there in terms of vans. And also, we would like to maybe review different particular vehicles in these videos. Maybe one video could cover one vehicle, and I think that would be really interesting for our listeners. We've provided
actually an advert that we produced for the Renault, which I sent to you if you want to look at that, if you want to use that.
Yes, please do.
It was sunny then as well. It was sunny, we did that, and warm. It was beautiful warm. I think I had shorts on as well, so it was lovely. So yeah, those were the days.
We provide a link to Paul's website to the right of this video. We will also, I think, add the link. I think you said Zappy. I have got the link actually where it tells you where all the vehicle charging points are around the UK. I think that would be useful for people to.
Yeah, the one I use is that map.
Zap map. Okay, yeah, yes, I think that's the one that we have got on our website as well. So I will add that. So yeah, huge thank you, Paul, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you very much.